So what does happen when you ask one of the most famous creationists on the planet why we only find kangaroos in Australia?
Now, how did the kangaroos get to Australia? After the flood, the ark landed in the country of Turkey today, and the animals began to spread out. Kangaroos are less aggressive than tigers, so they would probably be driven to the fringe of the migration wave. And animals since the flood are not leaving fossils behind.
And there's your answer. The kangaroos are found in Australia because they are scared of the tigers and they run away from them. And it's so plausible, isn't it? I can imagine it. You know, one minute you step off the ark and the next minute you're looking for your kangaroos and you're all like, ooh.
Where have they gone? Where have they gone?
Yeah, where have they gone? And you're like, oh, they're over there running away from the tigers. But of course, boys, that's not true, is it?
Oh.
Never mind. Anyway, let's take a look at what happened when I finally got the chance to debate this man, one of the world's leading creationists, Dr. Kent Hovind. Now, before I go any further, and I will say this only once, this debate was on evolution and not the existence of God. I am not saying proof of evolution proves or disproves a God or any other kind of creator. That is not an argument I'm interested in having. This was purely about evolution. But what I'm also going to say is, if you are going to actively call for evolution to be removed from the school curriculum, because in your words it isn't science, then you should have at least the most basic understanding of what evolution actually is. Let's see if Dr. Hovind ticks that box, shall we?
We defend the position the Bible is true, and the evolution theory is the dumbest and most dangerous religion in the history of the world.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Stating that evolution is the dumbest religion there is one heck of a claim when we've got people like this on the internet.
I'm a stupid flat earther, and I want to know where these mountains have gone.
Anyway, so far so good, but let's watch this debate now crawl towards its inevitable and cringeworthy conclusion as Dr. Hovind tries to educate us on what evolution actually is.
So evolution is a change in allele frequency, and do you understand how complex the DNA code is to start changing this? That's like saying a change in the Microsoft program that makes Microsoft PowerPoint. Little changes here and there are going to tweak it and turn it into an Apple program. It just doesn't happen.
Now that all sounds very good, doesn't it? You know, evolution is a change in allele frequency in a population, etc. It's all very complicated. But anybody that remembers anything about evolution from school will know that the term allele frequency to evolution is like the term Luke Skywalker to Star Wars. If you're talking to somebody about Star Wars and they don't know who Luke Skywalker is, you know that they know nothing about Star Wars. And if you're talking to somebody about evolution and they can't explain to you what the term allele frequency means, you know that they know nothing about evolution. So I wonder what happened when I actually asked Dr. Hovind what is meant by the term allele frequency. Can you explain to me what you understand by the term allele frequency?
Well, I guess let's save that for a separate debate also.
No. Now that is interesting, isn't it? Let's remember, Dr. Hovind is a man who's had over 200 debates on evolution, claiming it's not a science and should be pulled from the school curriculum. Yet when asked to define the most simple evolution 101 basic term, he wants to dodge the question. But I didn't let him. This next clip is about the fourth time of me asking. At this point, I'm going to stick on it and stick on it and stick on it. Can you please explain what you understand by the term allele frequency?
No, I'd rather have you explain it and me see if that's what I understand. It's been too long since I studied that phrase.
So, did I let Kent Hovind get away without answering that question? Well, I think you know me better than that by now, and we're going to see his spectacular response in just a minute's time. But first of all, for anybody who's forgotten about evolution and allele frequency from school, let's see if I can sum it up to you in less than 45 seconds. Go. So this is a textbook that I use at my school when we're teaching the kids about alleles, and you'll notice halfway down this page we have the learning objective, define the term allele. Now the simple answer it gives is this, it's just a version of a gene, or a slightly more in-depth answer is this one. Now I like to explain the term allele to children as calling it the flavour of a gene. So everybody has a gene for hair colour, everybody has a gene for eye colour, but the particular colour, whether that be blue or brown, will be the allele. And the term allele frequency just tells us how prevalent a specific allele is within a population. So for example, with the population on screen right now, the allele for having a complete lack of rhythm will be quite common. So there you go, less than 45 seconds, I'm quite happy with that. Now, wouldn't it be embarrassing if Dr. Hovind was given more time, let's say 55 seconds, and by the end of that 55 seconds, he is absolutely nowhere near giving anything that resembles a correct answer? Enjoy.
All living organisms, man has 46, different animals have different numbers of chromosomes, are unbelievably complicated, like a long twisted ladder. The rungs of the ladder would be the genes. These can have the alleles, as a variant of a gene. These things can vary from person to person. So I'd have to do some refreshing, but the twisted ladder, the long twisted chromosome ladder, has the rungs across it, the genes. There can be frequency differences between different people. You may have some insertions like an ERV. Let's do a whole debate just on that at another time. And I don't have any slides ready for that right now. But are you saying that because there are frequency changes in the frequency of the alleles of the genes in the DNA, that is proof that we all came from a rock? Is that what you're trying to lead to?
Amazing.
Exactly. And that's what happens when you get people like Dr. Hovind off script. They show they have a complete lack of understanding of what they claim to be an expert on. Let's remind ourselves how confident he sounded, though, when he was reading from his script.
So evolution is a change in allele frequency. And do you understand how complex the DNA code is to start changing this? That's like saying a change in the Microsoft program that makes Microsoft PowerPoint. Little changes here and there are going to tweak it and turn it into an Apple program. It just doesn't happen.
Anyway, given that Kent Hovind is struggling with even the most basic terminology around evolution, let's have a look through the comment section of his own subscribers to see if he can find somebody that might help him out here.
Listen, buddy, I don't think you realise there's actually lots of Christians that debate allele frequencies. It's actually a creationist friend due to allele restrictions.
Okay, yeah, maybe he wasn't the best choice, eh? But this guy here, he doesn't seem to be wanting to offer anything constructive at all.
Hello, my name is Jason Nickelodeon, and I've been waiting ages trying to think of something clever to say, and this is what I've come up with. I hope you like it. Okay, little kitty boy failed horribly. He can't even do maths, right? This is a good bit. Watch this bit. This is a good bit. His close ancestors throws poo at people at the zoo and eats fleas out of crotches.
Yeah, funny that. Did you like that one, Daniel? Fair enough. Oh, hang on. Anyway, the whole debate seemed to transition from one topic to the next, with Mr. Hovind, in his own words, not being prepared to talk about any of them. Here's another example where I'm pressing him on why ERVs are not significant evidence for evolution, with predictable results. You're not even showing that you accept it's a significant thing, right? Can you address it properly?
Yeah, I think let's do ERV in a separate debate. I'm not prepared for that.
No, the self-proclaimed expert on evolution doesn't seem to have heard of ERVs before. Now, I've done a full video on ERVs on this channel, but let's see if I can just summarise them for you, again, in 45 seconds or less. So the short version of this story is this. A retrovirus will enter our cell and insert DNA into our own DNA. And if this occurs in a cell that produces a sperm or an egg, we are going to pass this on to our children. Now, these ERV insertions can happen in 50 million different places in our genome, and that is a conservative number. Now, when you pass this integration onto any of your offspring, it will occur in the same 1 in 50 million chance location. This makes them very useful tools in tracing lineage. Now, when we use genetic analysis to look at ERVs, we find that they strongly support the evolutionary trees already laid out by things like fossil records, with humans and chimps having 7 of these 1 in a 50 million chance integrations in exactly the same place. Less than 45 seconds again. It appears I'm on a bit of a roll. What do you think, Kent?
I'm not prepared for that.
Well, that's okay, Kent, because my research team have been trawling through your comment section to try and find one of your subscribers that truly grasped the concept of ERVs and can explain to you now what I was talking about. Let's bring him in.
Okay, so I've just finished listening to Kat's debate against Kent Hovind. Now, it's really simple what he was trying to say. I think I understand it. It goes something like this. Are you ready? Cats cause disease-invasive DNA environ as healthy. Guess according to Katz, we don't need vaccines anymore. He uses a virus. Yeah, there you go. Spot on.
Yeah. I'll be honest, that's not quite what I was going for. Anyway, you might be getting the impression by now that Kent Hovind didn't want to talk about any of the science surrounding evolution, and he really wants to express that sentiment by lumping together all the things that he wasn't prepared to talk about into a song. So please welcome Dr. Kent Hovind with his debut single, I'm Not Prepared for That.
Housekeeping genes. I'm not prepared for that. The evolution theory. I'm not prepared for that. We have inserted DNA code from an ERV. I'm not prepared for that. Radiometric dating. I'm not prepared for that. You mentioned ring species. I'm not prepared for that.
You have to tell me why this is not proof of a closed system.
You must not have heard me, son. I said, I'm not prepared for that.
Brilliant stuff, Kent. Good luck with that. Now, before we start addressing some more of the comments that came my way after and during the debate, let's see if we can ask Kent one more question. I'm not holding out massive amount of hope, but are you happy with ubiquitous genes? You know what ubiquitous genes are?
Define the term as you understand it.
Right. So in other words, your answer is...
I'm not prepared for that.
Well, in that case, let's see if I can sum up ubiquitous genes for you and why they're evidence for evolution in 45 seconds or less. Some proteins are found in every single eukaryote on Earth, and because of this, we call them ubiquitous. Cytochrome C, which is a protein found in the mitochondria, is an example of such a protein. Now, the cytochrome C that's found, for example, in yeast will also work if it's placed in cats, plants, and a whole range of weird and wonderful beasts. Now, there are many forms of the gene that produces cytochrome C, but the distribution of this gene among eukaryotes is not random. So in other words, species that fossil records say are closely related have the closest matching genes, with chimps and humans having exactly the same gene. However, species that fossil records say are distantly related have the most different version of this gene. Now, this fits in perfectly with the predictions made by evolution, as species that are further apart will have the most different version of this gene because of mutation, but it doesn't fit at all with the creation argument. After all, why would God create so many different versions of a gene that does the same job and then place them in organisms deliberately to make it look like evolution has occurred? Fair enough, I failed that time. It took me a lot longer than 45 seconds, sorry. It could have been worse, you know. I could have said something like this.
What appears to be a second moon behind the full moon.
Or this.
Mass is identical to weight, but this weight is space weight.
But never mind, because either way, I need a bit of a change of pace. So before we start looking at some of the comments I got in that debate, has anybody got anything they want to talk about?
Yes, I'd like to talk about Israel again, and of course, see if we can figure out where the moon touches the Earth.
Where the moon touches the Earth? I think I'll pass that one on to Kent.
Well, I guess let's save that for a separate debate also.
Yeah, me too, I agree. I'm just not prepared for that. Let's look at some comments.
He's got a P1000, he ain't afraid to use it.
Now, all these comments are from Kent Hovind subscribers on his channel after he mirrored the debate, but I've got to say this one has to come first because it genuinely made me laugh out loud. Well done. But as you might guess, not all the comments were as nice as that one.
Hello, I just popped by to say that after watching the whole thing, I can say that Conspiracy Cat was actually giving me brain hemorrhoids. Yeah, every time he spoke.
Brain hemorrhoids? Then again, I suppose when you've got your head stuck up your arse, that is possible. Next comment.
You know, have you noticed, right, that anyone who believes in evolution seems to be like super angry all the time? What's wrong with them?
Is that guy calling me angry?
Well, I'm not, and I wish you a lovely day.
Anyway, I don't think this guy was too impressed with me either.
No wonder why Britain is no longer great.
And then we've got this guy.
You know, it really doesn't help Kent that we can't hear him.
You know, actually, I think it did help him because if his microphone was any louder, you'd have been able to even more clearly hear just how wrong he was in literally everything he said. What do you reckon, buddy?
I'm not prepared for that.
All right, give it a rest, will you? It's getting old, that now. Anyway, this next little exchange is one of my favourites. During the debate, a paper by creationist Thomas Parsons et al., written in 1997, was brought up. To summarise it, this paper suggests that mitochondrial Eve was only 6,000 years old because the mutation rates in mitochondrial DNA are supposedly a lot higher than we think they are. Now, I did address this, and I have read the paper, and one of the things I brought up about the paper was that it's the only paper that's ever been written that seems to support this, and all other papers contradict it. But was I wrong?
No, I think you'll find he's written loads and loads and loads of papers, so he lied.
Well, I would hate to look like a liar, and if I am wrong, if Thomas Parsons has written more than one paper on mutation rates in mitochondrial DNA, then I'd love to know about it. so I had to dig a little bit deeper.
Look at this moron writing the word of instead of on. Oh, that's me. Anyway, has he written more than one paper on mitochondrial DNA mutation rates?
And then I eagerly waited in the comments section for his reply. And here it was.
Look it up yourself. I don't know. I'll be honest, I didn't think you were going to get back to me on that.
Yeah, I guess he wasn't prepared for that. And to top it all off, this guy was there.
Hello, it's me, and what I'm going to do is what I usually do. I'm going to make a comment, but I'm going to be very, very careful not to include any sort of science, because every time I do, I just get it wrong. Like, every time. It's like a superpower what I've got.
Okay, Ranty. One more time.
I'm a stupid flat earther, and I want to know where these mountains have gone.
Anyway, before I go, please go and watch the full debate. It's on a Marvel Girls channel. I want to thank her for setting this up for me. It was not easy for her to do. I'd love it if you went over and watched it. I'd love it even more if you subscribed. She definitely deserves it. And I'll be doing a lot more debates on her channel in the future, so that's a good place you can find me. Other than that, I will be back this weekend on Conspiracy Cats. I'll be back this weekend on the Cats Science and Maths channel. Both of those are linked in the description. And it just leaves us to play out one more time with Kent Hovind's debut single.
Housekeeping genes. I'm not prepared for that. The evolution theory. I'm not prepared for that. We have inserted DNA code from an ERV. I'm not prepared for that. Radiometric dating. I'm not prepared for that. You mentioned ring species. I'm not prepared for that.
You have to tell me why this is not proof of a closed system.
You must not have heard me, son. I said, I'm not prepared for that.